Seabass, right. Snapper? Snapper?
Black bag? No, here.
Oh, with bad boy. Hiya. I would like to buy a snapper. The one in the middle. Yes, 4 pieces of scallops, please. Without the roll.
4.
Yes. Cheers.
See, like only £3. Twice the size and half, twice only 2 for free for the weekend. Come on, mate, you're right, you're good.
It's £3.50 on the.
That's right.
On that, it's £5, is that?
Yeah.
Shall I pop it in your bag?
On the card.
Yeah, no problem at all, sir. Sorry, madam. Would you like a receipt?
No, that's fine. Thank you.
You very much.
Cheers.
Indeed.
Mrs. Turner, called Mrs. T, cooks and digs for victory. She grows herbs in her window box, cress on a plate, her allotment she keeps in an excellent state, with potatoes and carrots and onions in rows, while each cabbage and cauliflower lavishly grows. So the Turners eat well, and the food they don't need, the community kitchen can use up with speed. The U-boats and Dorniers will soon meet their match when each one of us feeds off our own cabbage patch.
If you're under 30, you probably have no idea just how terrible most British food was when I was a kid.
Fry in the hot bacon fat until it's crisp and golden brown, and there, fried sandwiches with Kraft dairy meat.
Try poaching eggs in it. What a blend of flavours.
Give the family something fresh baked at home with Biota Economy.
2 world wars, which we supposedly won, had left us financially and gastronomically bankrupt as a nation. If you wanted exotic culinary adventures, you opened a packet of Vesta chow mein, added water, and reconstituted the powder inside. As for an evening out, the height of sophistication was a Burney Inn.
Tender Burney steaks.
Washed down with a warm fluid
And refreshing.
that reminded me of
Sweetness.
pink
The wine is called
piss.
Cheers.
Some Brits were vaguely aware that things were better in France, but how could we hope to cook like the sensual and romantic French when British food shops didn't even stock garlic, and olive oil was only sold in chemists, in tiny medicine bottles for pouring into your ear? On television, cookery shows reflected Britain's clinical and joyless attitude toward food.
You can use deep frying fat over and over again. It will go on for months.
They were mostly like the sex education classes I remember from school. The teacher would dutifully tell you which bit went where,
There's no hurry. Fry slowly.
but there was absolutely no indication whatsoever that what you were doing might actually be enjoyable.
It takes about 4 minutes.
But all that changed on the day that Keith Floyd burst onto my screen.
Easy enough, I don't open a bottle of champagne.
Into a joke.
I drink out of the bottle. It's fun, isn't it?
He was unlike anyone I've ever seen before on TV. He was passionate. He was likeable, funny.
It's so refreshingly different.
Here's the problem.
I certainly drink the odd glass of scotch. I have a quick slurp. What does it taste like? It's very good stuff, actually. I have a drink.
As you can see here, he seemed to be permanently marinated in booze.
So, there's a lot of drinking to do.
And it was often touch and go whether he would frown me the food or himself.
Cheers to us. I certainly drink more than my fair share of red wine. And I also smoke quite a few cigarettes. It's my life, and that's how I want it. So, cheers. Cheers to us. It's time for quick serve.
You see, not only was he honest with his food, he was honest with his personality.
Some say too honest.
Well, quite possibly too honest, but that's what I liked about him.
Sorry about my hair, but I'm not one of those who had a spray feeling on last night. The producer took us all out for a really slap-up meal. We've had a few problems on this shoot. Basically, we've been under budget all the way. And as you know, with filmmaking, if you don't spend it all, you can't get more for the next one. So he took us out for an enormous, wonderful dinner. We had lobster, caviar, champagne, and the finest Italian brandy afterwards. And that's why I actually need this.
He couldn't act on television. I mean, television's all about bogus. I mean, bogus tears, bogus laughs, bogus indications of interest, it's all there. I mean, he can't do bogus. He just comes on and he shouts and he emotes and he does it.
Well done and thank you. He's himself and incorrigible and just a genuine article.
Holding a glass of wine, being passionate about food and eating it and looking like he was enjoying life.
In the genre, years before that phrase became common currency amongst people who didn't actually understand what it meant.
Well, what is the case with me? Dennis ruined it. It's totally overcooked. And the fish is a complete disaster.
He's a man, I asked. Oh, yes, we're in constant contact, I lied, and he'd agreed to do the programme. What followed was 6 months of frustration, as we tried without success to locate him. We approached Keith's agent, Stan Green, whose website contained more details about a boat he was selling than information on his client. Even more curiously, he seemed to be embroiled in a very public feud with his own client in the national press. However, because Stan was Keith's agent, we approached him with a request for an interview. So began an astonishing email exchange between my producer and Stan, in which Stan gave us dozens of reasons why his client wouldn't want to take part in our programme.
I can put my head between my legs. I wouldn't have left the house, never mind.
Only one thing troubled me. What state would this famous drinker be in after all those years of booze and that near-fatal collapse? Would he have one foot in the gravy?
There's Wood, modest residence, Edinburgh Castle. There has been a castle perched on the remains of this volcanic crag for over 1,000 years, and wherever you are in Edinburgh, it dominates the skyline. Despite its long history, it's still a working castle with a garrison manned by Scots regiments. The castle is also famous for its 1 o'clock gun, originally a daily time signal for ships in the Firth of Forth, and now it signals lunchtime for the workers of Edinburgh. But today, it's also acting as a rather elaborate kitchen timer. I've chosen 2 very simple, very quick. 2, and 4 into there. The countryside around here is perfect for grouse, who are fussy eaters who will only dine off the young shoots of heather. This is the Athol estate. At 150,000 acres, it's probably one of the largest private estates in Scotland. Around the world, people can't wait for the 12th of August, the start of the grouse season. But you're about as likely to find a grouse calling the 12th glorious as you are a turkey singing, "I wish it could be Christmas every day." About 4.5 hours, I don't know how many miles, a few false alarms, and no grouse. I'll tell you one thing, the old expression of romping the heathers taking off a shot like this is truly a cook's dream. Wonderful teal, woodcock, partridge, grouse, pigeons, rabbits, hares, the whole lot is here. It's fabulous to see it. And by the way, these are hanging here, they're on display. They're not being hung in the sense of making them rotten or anything like that. These days, the idea of hanging game doesn't go on any longer than 4 days in a cold environment, just to tenderize them and let the flavour come out, as much as you might do with a good sirloin of Scottish beef, for example. In former times, yes, they were hung up in the cold room simply because there was no other way of preserving them. But today, they're just hung for about 4 days, and then they're plucked, cleaned, and sold. And since I absolutely failed to shoot any, I've got no choice but to buy a couple. So I've got my birds, and what better place to cook them than at the Dunkeld House Hotel, originally the home of the Dukes of Atholl. Whereas I love eating virtually everything, one of my genuine favourites is game. And here in Scotland, you've got the wonderful opportunity of especially grouse, of pheasant, of wild duck, of deer, all kinds of things. And another thing about cooking I like very much is roasting. There's something primordial about sticking something in an oven, making it very hot, roasting it, and serving it with its juices. And that's what I'm going to do. First, here, I've got some wild duck. Now, underneath them, I've made a mirepoix. That's coarsely chopped up root vegetables, carrots, celery, leeks, onions and stuff like that, which I've fried in butter to make a bed for the birds to sit on while they're roasting. Equally, I've fried the birds in butter just to seal them and then put them on the vegetables. Breasts of pheasant, which I'm going to saute gently in butter. While they're just taking colour, I'll take a little colour myself. Very agreeable. Now, flip these over. And as usual with all meats, don't season them until they're sealed. Otherwise the salt in particular will draw out the juices which you want to keep inside the flesh itself. Okay, now that the bit of cider. Now, so they don't stew and get tough, we'll just put those to one side and keep them warm. We'll let that sauce reduce very slightly. Now, as that reduces, it's A, warm through, B, turned golden. So then, Scotch salmon stuffed with ginger, lime and sultanas, and this other dish, Scots mussels, baked with spinach and cheese sauce. Absolutely delicious. The only time that and it's not at all true that nasty Glaswegian man said you'd have more fun at a Glasgow funeral than you would at an Edinburgh wedding. That's simply not true.
Breaking a leg. The vets in Hong Kong are doing the plastering thing in half an hour over on Sky Travel, the home of travel reality. First here on Extra though, calling for the Czech in Prague, with more from Council Floyd.
Drive on, Jivsky. Prague is the capital of the Czech Republic, and thanks to being spared the ravages of war and the bulldozers of redevelopers, the centre is a stunning historic monument to 1,000 years of architecture. From Gothic and Romanesque through to the modern hotels that have sprung up to accommodate the rush of visitors. One of the most famous spots here is Wenceslas Square, a former horse market and a gathering place for the city's people. It has been witness to both the struggle and celebration that has accompanied the city's recent turbulent history. 21 years after communists took stronghold here in 1948, Jan Palak, a philosophy student, burned himself to death here in protest against the Soviet occupation. It was another 21 years before the square saw much rejoicing. It was only in 1989 when the Czechs staged their Velvet Revolution that brought the end of over 40 years of communist rule. And this once sombre place now wears the gilded face of capitalism, something which the youngsters of the country have picked up and run with like Olympic sprinters. But it's left the older people a little bit bewildered, a bit mystified, and possibly a little sad. In the heart of the city, you'll find the Old Town Square, which dates from the turn of the last millennium. On first sight, it really does tell a good story. These incredible buildings make it look more like a fairy tale film set than real life. However, I'm going to have to crack the whip and interrupt the directors and move the architecture shots because I've got some cooking to do. Virtually every cafe, every bistro, every restaurant, every hotel serves one classic Prague dish, and that is a goulash. It varies from a spicy Irish stew to tough bits of meat and spicy tomato sauce to quite an excellent, sophisticated stew. I'm going to try and improve on even that. So, first of all, we'll try some lovely bits of smoked fatty bacon, along with some chopped onions, and some garlic. Little bits of bacon and nicely cooked. Meanwhile, tomato there now, Mike. Tomato, that's very important. Right, meanwhile, back with my dumplings. Right, now into the dumpling mix goes zest of lemon, quite a lot of it, some chopped parsley, and some freshly chopped sage. Some chopped onion, and some little partly fried fatty bacon pieces. So we just mix it all together, roll it into little balls in the flour, like that. Leave those to cool, cold enough here, and then we'll steam them. But I can't be bothered to do that, so I'll get Sean to make the rest of those up. Give that another good mix before we go, Sean. Now in here, I'm going to fry some wonderful beef. Once the meat is sealed, for a moment, we'll dip them into this one here. Now add one of the essential ingredients, some paprika. And depending on how hot you like it, you add as much or as little as you like. I like it quite hot, and so I'm even going to add a couple of chilies. Then a load of parsley. Some bay leaves, and then a drop of tomato puree, not too much, and then finally some good, very nice, strong Czech beer. That's that, the lid goes on. That'll take about an hour, simmering gently, and the steamed dumpling will take 30 to 40 minutes. And that's it. A tasty, gutsy, spicy beef goulash and rib-sticking bacon and onion dumplings.
Crossing it is one of the most famous landmarks in Prague, Charles Bridge. Started in 1357, it took 50 years to build. Its survival is attributed to the fact that eggs ran to the mortar to make it stronger, making this possibly the biggest and most visited omelette in history. If you happen to be a turkey, then Prague is the place to spend Christmas, because here the locals celebrate their festive season with fish, more specifically with carp. Just before Christmas, there'll be barrels of live carp on virtually every street corner here in Prague. Locals will come by, bag them for them, take them home in buckets or plastic bags, and maybe even keeping them in the bath until they're required on Christmas Day. And since the country has no coastline, fish farming has been popular here for 800 years, and remarkably, methods have changed barely at all since then. Now, to my mind, although it is the delight of the Czechs, for me, the carp does need a good, strong sauce to go with it. So there we have our shallots, our baby onions, red wine, and beef stock. Take these ones out of here for a minute, put to one side. There's a reason for this, which is very simple, because those little bits are now nicely cooked. Then we add a little bit of tomato puree. There, stir that in. Let that reduce, bubble around a tiny bit, and then to thicken it, we add some butter. Little whisk, in like that. Search of alternative fare. In the Czech Republic, it's traditional for country folk to keep a pig to celebrate the end of the harvest. The pig is slaughtered early in the morning, and every part is used to make ceremonies. So I've come to the picturesque village of Karlstein, famous for its imposing castle, to join the celebrations in the hotel Culinary.
This is a gorgeous, wet autumn morning in the Czech Republic, with a pig hanging from a tripod, with blood dripping into a barrel. But it takes you back 50 years. My own family, every farm around here listed, each autumn would slaughter a pig so they can make bacon, they can make ham for Christmas, they can make sausages, they can make faggots out of the liver and the lovely fat that surrounds it, the core, some of which is of course completely illegal in England now because of the food police, and you can use the pig's trotters for making a rich, wonderful blood soup. So we're going to have a feast today, a big celebration of the pig, because as you know, with a well-butchered pig, there's nothing left.
A sharp knife in the skilled and experienced hands of the local butcher Joseph makes the complete large butchery look like child's play. But making sausages in Karlstein is not kid stuff. Like Lachenka, for example.
sausage is made from chopped boiled meat, offal, fat, mixed with garlic, salt, dried herbs, and black pepper. Or the white sausages, where Joseph adds fried onions, soaked white bread, chopped liver, garlic, ginger, coriander, dried herbs, salt, pepper, and stock, before hand-stuffing them into the skins. Or the black ones, more or less like white, except with boiled pearl barley, pig's blood, and caraway seeds mixed with. Now there's truly nothing left, or well, butcher the pig. Here we've got some pearl barley that's been boiled in water. We have the remains of the pig's blood, and in here we've got a wonderful pork stock where all the pork, the fatty bits, the bones are all boiled up into the sausage, the richest stock you'll ever find. But for this soup it's too hot, so we have to add some cold stock just to cool it down a little bit. Right, then we pour the blood into the pearl barley, and then this, for you vegetarians, is a perfect dish because it has got natural wheat in it. And also, for you who don't like blood sports, this is called slaughter soup. Bloody marvellous, literally. That then we put in ladle by ladle and stir it around. This is an amazing lengthy soup. It takes about 3 hours. I'm not doing it quite right. I'm getting instructions from the head sausage maker. I must stir that around as we go, otherwise I shall curdle the soup. Those of you who remember classic French cuisine, things like jugged hare and coq au vin, the reason those sauces were so rich and delicious is that they were thickened with the blood of the animal that was used. Now this process gently carries on. Slaughtered this morning. Into that we'll add some breadcrumbs and some chopped onions, fresh sage, very very good with pork, some fresh parsley, and some dried mixed herbs. Then mix all these together. Once they're nicely mixed, mould them into little balls, small ball, cricket ball sized, wrap it in this wonderful caul. perfect. Okay, well, Sean, yeah, pop that into the stock. Thanks very much. I've never seen such a gap. All before, as I saw today, when I watched the butcher get these fantastic sausages, toasted by hand. The wonderful white meat sausages, the superb blood black pudding sausages, the blood soup, the slaughter soup, the guarantee of pig's tongue and heart and pork meat, even the humble pork scratchings, the pig's head. By the way, that tastes just as good as a leg of pork, just looks like it, that's all. And my own modest contribution, a kind of a faggot, minced pork and liver wrapped up and baked in caul. And then finally, my little attempt at a Czechoslovakian dish, stuffed cabbage with paprika flavoured pork, spices and herbs, served with a cream and apple and paprika sauce. Let's see what the locals make of it. Prague is a fantastic city. It's lively, it's cheerful, it's great fun. And whether you're a lagerland and want to club till dawn and chat up some beautiful birds, or a saga note and want to walk around guide in hand, looking at the wonderful monuments, attending the fabulous concerts, or visiting the art galleries, this is the place for you. Marketplace isn't just for buying lunch, it's for a quick check on what's been happening last week. Checking out the deals that could be done. This old boy here, Monsieur Pelican, because of his great big nose, claims he's been fishing on it since the time of Jesus Christ here. Exaggerated slightly, of course. However, for Monsieur Pelican, the Dordogne is the method of life. He fishes not for fun, but for his very livelihood. They catch the lot here: tench, lodge, bream, pike, perch, dace, chub, wop, balloon bam. I'm sorry, quite carried away there. But look at that, it would give any self-respecting section of a British angling club absolute apoplexy to see all that lot netted out of the river. This is strange for me, really strange. 30 years ago, I caught my first ever perch. How good a guy was this in my sandwiches. And I was forced to cook it. One or two cooked it. And I am sure that it would carp. That was my whole visit fishing and eating. And I go around. And I enjoy this grown-up, rich and famous. Jesus Christ. Must know a thing or two about it. But you can see, I stepped back and I'm 10 for this. Is that it? Excellent. Bien cuit. Voilà. Excellent. On va se faire les quinze. Je vais voir ça de suite. Voilà, pour moi c'est sacré. Regardez tout ça. Ah oui, c'est a sacred thing for them. You don't just rush into it. Elle a été très bien sortie. C'est une des meilleures à ce chemin. A bit like whitebait, but they're freshwater fishes and they're very popular with people who live along the banks of the Dordogne. They're very simple to do. They've been cleaned by just squeezing out the inside because you don't want those nasty bits. And the very first thing you do is soak them in milk just for a few minutes. Like that. That's the right. But if you'd like to come back to me, what's a great favourite here is to serve it with a persillade, which is decent garlic, very fine to chop like that. chop it all up as fine as you possibly can. Always with a nice bit of rounded edge. There we are. I like showing off like that, but do be careful with your fingers if you can't do it as fast as I. Only one person who's going to tell me if it's any good. Mr. T again.
And much more important, as far as I'm concerned, Bernard's been fixing again. And I'm going to get one of those medals these guys from the Star Chamber, wherever they come from, are wearing.
Naturally, these great honours aren't bestowed on any old body. So I, of course, went on a crash course of Bordeaux and Bergerac wines. Now, are you sitting comfortably? Because this is what you need to know. First of all, turn a few pages in Hugh Johnson's Pocket Wine Guide. Bone de Venise, Bergerac. Bergerac, here we are, Bergerac. Dordogne, R or W, SW or DR, 2 stars, 82, 83, 84, W, 85. Lightweight, often tasty Bordeaux-style wine. Drink young, the white very young. Got all that?
C'est alcool et puis c'est gras, c'est riche. Donc ce sont des vins qui vont tenir de nombreuses années. On peut vivre de mieux le boire dans 3 ans qu'au 20 ans.
All this drinking, all this tasting, you don't get to get any. It's a bit grim. I was invited here to be enthroned by knights in robes in chapels and things like that. I'm going to pass an exam before they let me downstairs to the enthroning room. It's absolutely terrible. I'm a big snifter here. It's a Pigeon, it's a very, very good wine. They ask me these leading questions, I don't really know the answers. Excuse me, I'm going back to film part 2, in my own time, one side of the paper at a time, in my own writing.
Charmant. Les ensoignés.
These guys really know how to lay on a ceremony, don't they? I'm sort of quite trembling in honour here, almost in panic. In fact, it's even more important than I got commissioned or even got selected for the second 15, or even getting my O-levels. This is amazing. Look at that. The final result of hours of really intense study. Consulat de Wine de Bergerac. That's me, there's my name. Look, Keith Floyd, and all those very important signatures prove the fact that I slept a couple down while I was over there. I think more people ought to get medals. If you're a happier place, you know, if you mended the gas meter, you get a medal. Now, we've had a lot of fun. We've shown you the Périgord, we've shown you the simple peasant dishes. It is a cookery programme after all, so I thought we ought to have a really good sequence where a splendid, exotic dish like chicken stewed with freshwater crayfish is prepared for you by a master. And I'm going to write a little commentary now. But, David, you're the blinking director. What shall I mean, how do I deal with this?
Well, I think you should say what he's actually cutting up at the moment.
Right. Well, you see, he's got to start by chopping the onions. And by the way, this was a very, very difficult bit because the atmosphere was so tense. You could cut the whole thing with a blinking knife, actually. The director didn't like the cook very much. The cook resented the film crew being in there, interrupting a normal day of work. Anyway, first of all, he takes the shells off some pre-boiled freshwater crayfishes.
He was very miserable, wasn't he?
He was very unhappy.
He was very miserable.
Yeah. Crushing those up, he saved the tails for later on. What do I do now?
Talk about him moving the chicken breast into that little bowl.
I would have thought the pictures were self-explanatory.
Oh no, well, he just put something in. I'm not quite sure what he's putting in.
All right, he's put shallots into the pan now, in the same pan in which he fried the fried the chicken, I'm sorry. Mm-hmm. Now he's got to add, I know he's got to add some tomato finely chopped up, and the écrevisse shells, which he's already crushed, right?
Absolutely, that's the tomato there. We see the tomato there. Bubbling up quite nicely, I think.
Yeah.